The early 90s were a bit of a transitional period for the Mario franchise. After Super Mario World and Super Mario Land 2, it'd be a whole 14 years before we'd see another 2D Mario game. And of course now we all know that Nintendo was hard at work on a huge new game for 1996. That 4-year gap between the main series titles was a long wait at the time. What this meant was we'd be having a bit of a renaissance for spin-offs. This was the period that gave us Mario Kart after all. This also began a period of giving side characters the spotlight. Here on the channel we last covered a bunch of Yoshi games, and this period would later usher in the grand return of Donkey Kong. For the next 3 episodes of the Mario Marathon, we'll be tackling Wario's first few times in the spotlight, and today is one such game, though he's gonna have to share that spotlight with Mario. Howdy everyone, I'm Sprited, and welcome to the Mario Marathon, the series where I talk about every single Mario game ever made. Today's episode is all about the Japanese exclusive puzzle game Mario and Wario. Our story begins when Game Freak, a developer who would later create the Pokemon series, first worked with Nintendo on a puzzle game called Yoshi. If you want to learn more about that game, I did a video talking about it a while back. Nintendo of Japan's president at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, was... well, I want to say he was impressed, but honestly, the dude hates everything. You can never impress this old man. Total old school business type. So anyway, he thought that their work was adequate, and asked them to do another game for Nintendo, this time using the Super Scope. For those not aware, the Super Scope was a light gun accessory for the Super Nintendo, basically a giant-ass bazooka that you shoot the screen with. Hey, here's another plug. The last episode was about one of its games, Yoshi Safari. Yeah, double Yoshi video promotion. Wacky. So, Game Freak starts work on their new Super Scope game, but they didn't want to do another game with Nintendo characters. They wanted to make their own original IP. So Game Freak's president, Satoshi Tajiri, and another employee, Aihito Tamisawa, have themselves a brainstorming sesh, and they decide a horror-themed game inspired by the Gremlins movies. Alright, so the concept here would be that there's like a little monster dude and he's running around like a building, and you, the player, gotta catch it with a net, of course using the Super Scope. They made a prototype of this, and I kinda like the idea. It's a lot more unique than most Super Scope games, just kinda uncreatively using a big-ass gun as a big gun. Nothing wrong with that, obviously, but this game could have had great potential. They toyed with this idea and changed some things here and there before coming to the ultimate realization. Wait a minute, why the hell are we making this game for the big plastic? We should make games for small plastic. The Super Scope was a commercial failure, especially compared to the insanely iconic NES Zapper. The games for it sold even worse. However, at this point in development, there was a brand new peripheral coming out, and it looked promising. The SNES Mouse. Here's another fucking plug for you. In my Mario Paint video, I talked about this crazy contraption and its most popular game. It's basically a computer mouse compatible with the Super Nintendo. However, this is an old school mouse, using a ball inside to detect movement instead of a laser like modern mice do. This caused it to collect all sorts of dirt, hair, dead skin, and shit. Not to mention, this thing had mad sensitivity issues and cuts out sometimes, having problems with more nuanced movements. That wasn't a huge problem with Mario Paint, but this would come to be egregious in tonight's game. Game Freak had no idea how well the mouse would sell in comparison, but because it was new and relevant, they decided to take their chances on this one. They shifted the premise, eventually thinking the idea of shifting a character through a maze, which is kinda what the final game's levels are pretty much were, yeah. And what characters? Well, we don't know most of them, but they got legendary Pokemon artist Ken Sugimori to design them. I'd personally love to see these designs. Eventually Nintendo comes fucking knocking on Game Freak's door like they do from time to time. They come over, they break a couple computer monitors, and a few knees too. And they eventually come and they're like, hey Home Slice, you remember how you said specifically that you don't want to do a Mario game again? Like pretty much explicitly that, yeah? Yeah, we're gonna have you make this a Mario game. Okay, thanks. And so Mario and Wario was born. They did, however, keep one non-Mario character in the game though, Wanda the Fairy. I'm trying something a little new with the footage this time around. I'm still playing on authentic hardware, but to make the quality look nicer, I recently purchased a device. I'm line tripling using the OSSC through RGB SCART. All those scary letters mean the footage looks pretty. I've heard some people like the analog feel of my videos, and I personally prefer to play my retro games on my CRT, but my setup started to make things look even worse, so I'm trying something new out. Let me know what you think in the comments. I would be willing to go back if you want. Mario & Wario released exclusively in Japan for the Super Famicom on August 27th, 1993.
マリオとワリオだよ。回して楽しいマリオペイントもよろしく。
The story excerpt from the manual goes as follows.
This is Fairy Forest. Within the forest depths lives a fairy, and those who behold it find happiness as the tale goes. One day, Mario sought the fabled fairy by coming to the forest. Peach, Yoshi, and Luigi were together, or should have been, but alas, Luigi's visage was unseen. Mario's group of 3 had decided to look for lost little Luigi. Then, the sky was overcome with a suspicious engine sound. What was that? It was Wario riding his personal plane, the Bulldog, and he threw a bucket from the sky. Here you go! Uh-oh! The bucket landed right over Mario's head. Wah! I can't see in this thing! Watching was the forest fairy Wanda. She somehow wanted to help, but the small fairy did not have the ability to remove the bucket. Thus, Wanda decided to use her magic wand on Mario to send signals, guiding him to Luigi.
That's really cute. Except none of it matters. Luigi's at the end of every level, so immediately gets lost every level. Peach and Yoshi can also get stuff thrown on their heads, and they get more than just a bucket thrown on them. It's only the first world that takes place in the fairy forest. The fact is, this is just a little puzzle game. It doesn't need a story, and coming up with one didn't hold up to much scrutiny. It's nice that they gave us anything, though. But besides the inconsistencies, the main one that's weird is, why can't Mario lift the bucket off of his head? Mario's got a new plane, the Bulldog. This plane, believe it or not, would become a bit of a staple vehicle for Wario for the next couple games. Until, of course, he trades it for his cool-ass purple car and chopper. Also, hey, here's Wanda. Not to be confused with this fairy, also named Wanda. She doesn't appear outside of this game. Like, ever. She had a spirit in Smash Ultimate, but that's about it. I personally like her design a lot. As mentioned in the history, she's one of the original Game Freak created characters that got to stay in the game, but she fits right into the Mario universe. Maybe that's because of this wonderful Yoichi Katabe artwork, and the fact that her wand is the same as the wands that the Koopalings had in Mario 3. Other than her design though, we don't really know much about her. Why is she helping Mario and friends? I don't know. I'd imagine fairies would be afraid of humans, so it's interesting that she immediately understands that Wario is evil. Never mind that point. Just look at Wario, I don't trust him. Also, she's a fairy, so does that mean that she has any connection with the Subcon fairy guys, or the Sprixies, or... No, probably not. Starting up the game, we're thrusted into a Mega Man-style level select here, interestingly enough. You're given 8 levels to choose from, and you can tackle them in any order. World 1 is set up as a tutorial, however, with World 2 acting as the intended official start of the game. Obviously, each one is harder than the last, so the game kind of wants you to go in numerical order, but it's neat that you can choose regardless. The game also lets you choose between 3 characters, Peach, Mario, and Yoshi, all being different speeds. Peach is the slowest, Mario is the middle choice, and Yoshi is the fastest. This affects not only the walk speed, but also the fall speed. More on this later. Anyway, this game is a puzzle platformer? It's like Lemmings. There's a lot of navigating the world, figuring out how to drop down below or climb up. It's kind of like Wrecking Crew in an abstract way. The character you pick doesn't do anything except walk straight in one direction. You, using the cursor, take control of Wanda. And what you do is guide that clumsy fuck to their goal. They can fall off ledges and get killed by enemies and all sorts of shit, so it's up to you to protect them. You can flip them around by simply clicking on them. Sometimes you can keep flipping them repeatedly if you need to slow them down in general. But the majority of your gameplay comes with how you interact with the environment. The worlds are littered with different kinds of blocks that do all sorts of different things when clicked on. There's these standard little flip-flop blocks that are just outlines, and clicking that outline will make a block appear. These are the most common. Then there's these green coin blocks. You click on these repeatedly to get coins, and of course getting 100 nets you a life. What's kinda cool here is that they actually work just like the multi-coin blocks in a main series Mario game, where if you stop hitting the block for a second, it gives you less coins in total. You got rock blocks, which can be destroyed with just a click, timer blocks that'll only be active for a limited amount of time before vanishing again, switch blocks that come in sets of 2 and work kinda like normal blocks but by alternating, so if one's gone, the other will be there. A similar mechanic was used in Mario Galaxy later on. Balloon blocks are these weird blocks that just inflate and deflate. They only appear in a couple levels. You don't really have any control over these ones, you just kinda gotta let them happen. Lastly, there's the sticky blocks, which just slow you down when you walk on them, but it does the same for enemies at least. Mix all this with ladders you climb up and down, spikes, enemies, and springs everywhere. The game can go from simple to overwhelming real fast. So I'm just gonna start up World 1 and play in order like Todd intended. World 1 acts as a little tutorial world, holding your hand each level, slowly introducing the elements one at a time. Every level in World 1 also doesn't scroll, keeping everything to one little box before the levels get too crazy complicated later. 1-1 is a basic one. It's just 2 ladders and 5 flip-flop blocks. If you somehow miss them and fall, there's no bottomless pits, or spikes, or enemies, or anything. No consequences at all, even the timer is incredibly lenient. They just wanted you to get a grasp of the basic mechanics before it gets too crazy. Because the game is fucking hard, I appreciate this. At least they ease into it, even if it's incredibly slowly. Luigi waits, pacing back and forth at the end of every level, and upon reaching him, he removes your bucket, until it's back on you and you find him again in the next level, that is. You might notice, as mentioned before, there's a little time bar on the top right there. It slowly ticks down each level, but unlike the main series, it actually can be a problem. A core part of the game is, while managing all this other puzzlery and whatnot, making sure you do it in a timely manner. It's gonna be the biggest challenge of the game, just not yet. 1-2 is about the same, just with spikes, making the level a little more dangerous. And 1-3 is about the same as that, but with the introduction of the coin block. The rest of World 1 is pretty much that, slowly ramping things up, making things a little more hectic, but not really. Showing timer blocks and rock blocks and all that shit. 1-10 introduced our first enemy, the little Sparky. He's introduced in a very, very controlled environment. Like, it's really tough to die to him, frankly, but he's there. Like in the other Mario games, they'll travel along walls, and with your ability to change blocks, you can kinda guide them sometimes, and even trap them inside of a block. Something exclusive to this game is upon clicking them, they'll shrink to move slower. After each world, the game throws you in a little bonus game to earn some more coins, where you click on Wario repeatedly to bash him with this little toy hammer. After a while, you destroy the bulldog and he flies away one final time and you get a few extra coins off that. It's likely you get a life at this point, so it's a good little refresh point at the end of each world. World 2 has you at a lake with a family of Yoshis in the background. If they're that far below, then they're tall as fuck. These have got to be like 14 feet tall Yoshis. That's scary. At the start, Wario throws half a Yoshi egg on you instead of a bucket. Every world has a different thing, going to show that the story really does not matter in this game at all. It is kind of fun to see what kind of item gets thrown on your head each level though. With World 2, we begin having longer levels with a scrolling camera. It's not too bad, especially this early on. So far, so good. At any time, you can pause with the right click, and by moving the mouse, you can scroll across the screen to see what's coming up and where stuff is. Just like I mentioned before, the timer proves to be a bigger challenge around this point. If you're going for all stars, there will definitely be plenty of times where you start to barely scrape by in time. And that brings me to the other new thing, stars. From this point on, every level has 4 superstars hidden in the level, and once you get all 4, you get a 1-up, much like the dragon coins in Super Mario World. A lot of the time, you gotta do some fuckery to get them, going off the beaten path and flipping blocks. At a few points, they make you find invisible blocks to get them. Yeah, those exist here, you just gotta click on them to find them. How the fuck are you supposed to find these? In 2-3, we're introduced to Pidgeots, returning from Mario 2 USA. Actually, these are Pidgeot Juniors. I'm kinda shocked to see these guys back again, honestly. They don't ride magic carpets this time around, they just kinda sit there. They're just a thing you click on to defeat, making them the basic enemy of the game. 2-6 is a pain in the dick. You have to navigate this maze of springs, trying desperately to find which one takes you to Luigi. And yeah, to get all the stars, you gotta find these invisible blocks. Fucking ridiculous. This level also bears the first mushroom, a handy little item that'll fill up your time gauge a little more. They only really appear in levels where you fucking need them, so time is usually tight in levels with them. They only really appear in levels where you fucking need them. By this point, you're starting to see what this game is truly like. It could be fun, but like, God, they just love to do this thing where you're frantically clicking on your character back and forth to buy you some time while you click the blocks you need, all while frantically trying to prevent them from falling. It can be fast, tense, and maybe even fun, but god damn is it stressful. The problem with these pinch movements being so often, though, is this stupid fucking mouse. As I said in the Mario Paint video, it's an old school ball mouse, so it gets snagged, it moves slow by default, and it jitters. It wasn't too annoying in a little paint program like Mario Paint, but a game like this, one that requires an insane amount of on-the-dot precision and quick reflexes, this mouse can really dick you. It's absolutely unplayable at slow speed, definitely crank it to the max. World 3 is more the same, ramping things up a ton with the timer blocks. Playing this point with my friends, by the way, shout out to my boy Ross Redmond for playing this Yoshi footage for me, as well as my partner Beck for playing the game with me and some of the other footage. But anyway, playing this with my friends, we would pretty much every level go, oh man, not knowing how the fuck we're gonna clear this one. Worlds 4 and 5 is where the game actually becomes the game. It's revealing all its card. This shit is annoying to deal with, and it's only gonna get worse. 4 has the ice theme going on with a Rex frozen in ice in the background. They introduced these stupid fucking bats called Comorans. They look like just one big bat hanging around, but once you move under them, they split into 4 little bats. Did I mention you die in one hit in this game? There's this one fucking bit right at the very end of 410 where they put 2 of them right next to each other on either side of this ladder. You're on a ladder. You can't move. You just have to kill them fast enough. Fuck. Dude, at the very end, like the end of the last level too, this game moves way too slow to be pulling shit like that. It took me 20 damn years to get up here, and now they're like, surprise, do it again, dumbass. On the topic of speed, when you pick a character, it doesn't just affect walk speed, but also falling speed. You're graciously given these little windows to do things, so like if you pick Peach and she's falling into lava pit or something with blocks above them, at least you can try to save her in time. I also like that when a character is about to fall off a platform, they kind of teeter-totter for a few good seconds. You know, you get that Wile E. Coyote time, and that gives you a bit of a chance to save them. Little things like that go a long way this late in the game. So given all this shit that they throw at you, yeah, Yoshi's gonna be practically impossible to play as. You might think, oh, let's pick Peach then, and yes, you're right, but don't forget, this also means you go agonizingly slow. Picking Peach is damn near mandatory in the last few levels, but she's also the reason shit like bats killing you at the very end of a long maze is incredibly infuriating. This world also introduced the sticky blocks, which I didn't realize at first that you're supposed to click on them to flip them upside down, allowing you to move faster. World 5 is the lava world, and this shit is getting ridiculous. These guys are called Subons. They're pot-shaped cannon guys that cling on the ceilings. To avoid them, you're expected to just kind of time your walking past them. However, there are a couple other things you can do. The tricky option is to actually click their fireballs, which will dissipate them. The timing of this is so hard, I usually just put Wanda right in front of the line of fire and click rapidly, hoping I get it. The other, better option, is whenever they're on a rock block or any other kind of block you can make disappear in some way. Doing that'll just kick them off, killing them. These guys suck, but I'm always happy when I see the diagonal variant, because these guys are so much more manageable. You just click them to change the direction they face. Easy peasy. I'm gonna take a quick detour to talk about the music for a minute, because it perplexes me. The game was composed by Junichi Masuda, who also composed Yoshi on NES, as well as the Pokemon series. These tracks fit right in with that knowledge, sounding just like all of his other early work. I can see these tracks fitting right in on Yoshi NES or Pokemon Red and Blue. But I like those soundtracks, and I fucking hate this one. Yeah, maybe it's that 16-bit sound font or something, but something about these songs just feel incredibly repetitive and annoying. I might be in the minority on that one, but the soundtrack in this game drives me insane. The title theme sounds like the shit they'd play 24/7 at Disneyland to make you go crazy. A few people pointed out that a lot of songs here are pretty similar to ones from Pokemon Gen 1, actually. And I can kinda hear it. World 4 sounds like Hurry Along. World 7 sounds like Routes 24 and 25. The World 8 theme has hints of the Indigo Plateau. And the World 10 theme has hints of the Champion Battle theme. If Masuda just liked these chord progressions, or if these are intentional, but it's interesting. World 6 isn't too notable. It actually feels just a little bit easier than 5. Honestly, I think they should have been swapped. It focuses mainly on the switch blocks and trying to make platforms for you to land on while making sure you don't just make yourself fall to your doom. Not that gravity should matter at all here anyway, because the whole world takes place underwater. But whatever. I guess they all forgot how to swim. World 7 has this little sky theme going on, and its main gimmick is the rarely seen balloon blocks. Given that they inflate and deflate back and forth, the main challenge is just timing when your character is going to walk over them. That is to say, there is no challenge. It's just waiting, walking back and forth, and in a bunch of cases, getting sent back to the fucking beginning and doing large chunks of this shit over again because your timing wasn't perfect. And 7-6 sucks dick. It starts with raining Pidgeot Juniors everywhere. I guess they're all on balloon blocks, so when they deflate, down they come. There's like 30 of the damn things, and after clearing all of them, you have to navigate a maze of those balloon blocks, making sure to fall on the right ones on the right time. And if you don't, oh, just do it all over again, wasting precious time. Again, not hard, just fucking obnoxious. The final stage of the initial lineup is World 8, the desert stage. The main gimmick here is the overabundance of little Sparkies, and the world likes to use a lot of those timer blocks. Not too much to say, it's certainly a step up challenge-wise, but by this point you should be skilled enough to take it on after a few tries. The only reason I say this is how game overs work in this game. When you get a game over, you can immediately pick a new character, and when you pick the world you died on at any time, you resume the level you died on too, making the game over of no real penalty. So at this point, the game is pretty hard, but it's not frustrating because you could just try over and over and over. Huge tip for 810, right at the beginning, block off these 2 Sparkies. If you don't, the end of the level is literally like 10 times harder because they block you there. But if you're fast enough to trap them, the entire level is no problem. After clearing all 8 levels in true Mega Man fashion, a 9th one appears right in the middle. This is Wario's Garden. Shit, I didn't know Wario was chill like that. Oddly serene for a final level, but don't let that nice theming trick you, because this level is a kick in the dick. What this one loves to use in particular is these tiny time blocks and spike balls. The whole world is full of running back and forth to time your stride past these spike balls, and trying so hard to click the time blocks at a good time. Yeah. I think the use of the smaller variant is intentionally evil, given that in a stressful pinch they require a more precise click, which has resulted in oh so many dumbass deaths. 9-2 will often catch me off guard, particularly this bit in the middle where you have to fall to the bottom while avoiding spike balls. There's rock blocks and flip-flop blocks on either side of all of them for you to make it easier, but if you don't know what to do, you'll just kill yourself. You want to ignore the rock blocks altogether, and if you can, it'll also help to try to trap them in the flip-flops. Oh, and I fucking love a level that puts the last star in a place where you have to redo a section of the level if you want to get it, making me walk right past Luigi, the evil fucks. And a special fuck you goes to 9-6. This level is prime running back and forth. The fucking level wants you to make your character stay on one fucking tile while you break rock blocks. I have no clue how you could do this with anyone but Peach. 9-7 has a part with 2 sets of spike balls next to each other, both completely desynced, and you have to use the time blocks to try your best to sync them so you can run past them. That's pretty memorable, I actually like that puzzle. Your timer will be beeping at you pretty much every level at this fucking point. It's truly your worst enemy in the game. I feel like the first attempt at any one of these levels ends in me almost at Luigi and then dying at a time over. These stages are becoming mazes. Remember when I said you could stop the Subon's fireballs by clicking them in time? Yeah, for the rest of the game, whenever you see them, it's required. You cannot beat 9-8 at all without stopping their fireballs with perfect timing. It's literally impossible. Unless maybe you're Yoshi. I haven't really been able to test that because fuck this game, I'm not playing this more. Are you kidding me? Prime example. 9-9. They combined Subons in small switch blocks, creating a personal hell of sorts. The ground is a switch block of one color, and a shield from a Subon in the other color. So you best be rapidly clicking those fireballs. Oh well, it's not too much of a problem. With enough tries, you get through it. And the huge maze that is 9-10. It's tough at the end, but Mario and Wario is a... Oh. That's a World 10. Welcome to Wario's castle. I don't feel very fucking welcome. What castle? Is this Mario's castle from Land 2? Did he steal it again? Well, wait. It's a mansion. It's not a castle. Where'd he get this shit? Who'd he steal it from? These 10 levels are gonna truly test your abilities at the game, as any final world should, but they will also test your patience. Let's go through it level by level, shall we? 10-1 is all about switch blocks and spike balls again. There's this part here with a row of rock blocks capped with a switch block. Your instinct is probably to smash all the rocks, but don't do that. At the end of the line is a horizontal spike ball, and you have to have it follow you as you walk on top of the rocks, breaking the ones behind you so it can. Then you have to trap it in the switch block to get past it. After that, you have to trap these 2 to get by, and then you'll get to the end. 10-2 starts with a bunch of timer blocks, expecting you to use it strategically to go down, but if you stay in the top layer, you can go over here to see some more Subons on rocks. Using some fucking invisible blocks, you can get the star and then backtrack. The goal of the level is to go down here in the line of the invisible blocks, but spoiler alert, there's a fuckload more Subons that will kill you if you do so now, so you gotta break as many of the rocks they're on as you can. So again, we must turn back. As far as I can tell, these 2 at the end can only be destroyed on your way down, so that's a pain. Imagine dying here at the end. There's so many of these fucking mazes in World 10. Starting with 10-3, there's a ton of levels that are just about getting you confused and lost, and by the time you figure it out, you won't make it to the end in time. Then you gotta start over again, having now forgotten what to do. 10-3 requires that you make sure you're falling from one side of a platform, but not the other. Make sure you don't pick the wrong ladders, switch on the right flip-flop blocks, and leave others blank, and god, it took me way too long to figure this one out. 10-4 is just a zigzag of rock blocks and subons. As long as you're strategic about the rocks you break and know how to stop the fireballs, this one isn't so bad. 10-5 is another one of those mazes, but I got fed up and figured out how to cheese it. If your timing is perfect, you can squeeze past the spike ball and get to the spring, which you can do right at the beginning. No sweat. 10-6 is another filler one. It's just ladders and subons. You gotta block their fireballs. The first trial is just that, but the second has those diagonally facing ones you can flip. It's tricky, but once you get the timing down, it's easy. 10-7 gives us switch blocks and little sparkies, like that drunken knight gave you itchy genitals. Just get to the springs at the end and you'll make it to Luigi. 10-8 would not stop kicking my ass. I died on this one over and over and over and over until I finally got a game over. I go on over to pick up where I left off because, like I said before, when you get a game over, you can just restart it on the level that killed you. So I go over and do that, and World 9? If you game over at this part of the game, you have to replay World 9. The whole thing. So let's try this again. And again. And again. So after trying and trying for hours, my buddy Eddie helping out and giving his best shots too, I just gave up. I clicked end, saw all my progress lost, shut the Super Nintendo off, deciding it not worth it. Later, I began research for this video, and as every video in the marathon, I consulted the Mario Wiki. On the page for this game, each level has a little description, and the description for level 9 says that in order to unlock, you have to finish level 8. Not all 8 levels, just 8. That can't be true, I thought. Surely that's an error. Now, I like the Mario Wiki, and I like to edit and contribute from time to time. Also, working on this series has put me in a unique position where I'm able to test a lot of things about perhaps less documented Mario games. So I decide, what the hell, I'll test this. I'll beat World 8 one more time to see, and if the wiki's proved wrong, I'll edit and fix it. Lo and fucking behold, it was right! Alright, time for round 2. The strategy that worked for me was this. When you start up the game, clear World 8. That'll unlock World 9. Clear World 9, then go back to Worlds 2 and 3, and if you're feeling up to it, 4 and 7. Grind, grind, and grind. Get as many lives as you possibly can. Maybe leave the console on overnight like I did to cool your jets. I went to World 10 this time with 38 fucking lives. Let's try this one more time. 10-8 begins with you needing to get past the Subon on a rock block to reach this ladder. To get to the first star, you need to navigate past the Subon, but fuck that shit, I'm just killing him. Take your character to the left side and free the spike ball by breaking the rock block. Turn your happy ass right around, fall through this specific tile, fall to the right here, then go left, walk over these flip-flop blocks onto the spring, and then as fast as you can, go to the left so that you're up where the spike ball was, but you gotta be fast enough before it turns around to fucking kill you. You gotta drop down to the bottom, trap yourself in this spot by breaking the left rock, but not the right. Flip all these sticky blocks for yourself so you can escape the spike ball when you have to jump down there and outrun it. Navigate through here, leave this rock block blocking the spike ball, and unflop all these flip-flop blocks except this one. Jump onto the spring and time your shit literally perfectly so that you can break the rock and flop the blocks so that you can get to the fucking ladder without dying and reach Luigi. This is the worst fucking level in the game. It took me so long to figure this out. I couldn't even imagine going for the stars, but if anyone's playing at home, hopefully that helps. And if not, hopefully that illustrates how evil this part of the game is. And by comparison, the rest of World 10 ain't so bad. They're tough, sure, but in a less cerebral way, I guess. 10-9 has you simply going down a basic path. It's just that you have the time hopping off each platform while avoiding these little sparkies, which, yeah, is still a pain in the dick, but it can be figured out. Alright, here we go. The final level. 10-10. They start you with this little unrelated challenge with a line of rock blocks and 2 diagonal subons, which isn't like hard, but it's fucking annoying. Like, for some reason I had a hard time flipping this one on the left without dying. The main challenge of this level is navigating sparkies. So we got these 2 that you should shrink down to get by safely, and then 3 orbiting this weird shaped platform with 2 flip-flop blocks on it. You have to go on here a few times, so I thought the best strategy was just to try to trap them all in flip-flops. There's a bunch of rock blocks, little sparkies, and ladders at the final stretch here. If you go forward and break the rocks, it's impossible to progress. You'll die at the sparkies and there's no way to avoid it. The only part of the level you can prematurely break the rocks and let them free is here, by bouncing on this random fucking spring. So once you do that and let them all go, you can make a B-dash right for the goal. and finish this godforsaken game. Wario escapes the mansion on the Bulldog, but your character chases him on a plane of their own. Maybe this is the Skypop from Land 1. They drop an oil drum right on Wario's head, and he crashes, and he fucking dies permanently, ending Mario and Wario. I totally forgot to mention in my initial script, but there is bonus worlds. Once you beat the game, there's more, and guess what? If you turn the console off, you can't access them. So once again, gotta do it all in one sitting. These are fucking bullshit. Couldn't even get past the first level. Mario and Wario is a game that exists. It's an interesting piece of Mario history. A Japanese exclusive game that was developed by Game Freak. And it is kind of a precursor to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis games. I don't really like these kind of Lemmings puzzle type games, so maybe I'm biased, but this game was just not fun to finish. I'll admit, it can be pretty fun. Sometimes after I step away from it, I find myself wanting to play the earlier levels, but that fucking final world is infuriating as hell. It almost ruins the entire game for me, honestly. Now this is where I'd tell you all the game's ports, but it never got re-released due to the mouse it requires. It could have worked so well on the Wii's Virtual Console using the Wii Remote's pointer. But alas, Nintendo is lame. We're lucky to have tilt controls and Switch Online's Kirby Tilt and Tumble. The game was only released in Japan, meaning it came on one of those Super Famicom cartridges that won't fit in an American Super Nintendo. So how did I do it? Here's a simple region mod you can do yourself without even having to open the console. You see, on the Super Nintendo, the region lock isn't a hardware thing at all. It's actually a Wait, no, it isn't a software thing. It isn't a software thing. It's a hardware. No, it's not really hardware. It's two pieces of plastic. You remove two pieces of plastic and you can play Japanese games. I don't have mine, so take my word for it, but you use pliers to gently but firmly pull them out like teeth. But if importing a game ain't your style and this looks up your alley, I ain't gonna endorse nothing. But some emulators use modern mice, and some use the Wii Remote. The game didn't end up selling well at all, but despite this, it seems like some corners of Nintendo had a lingering fondness for the game, referencing it all sorts of times. Pokemon Gen 1 has a Super Nintendo that's actually playing the game, and the bucket appears in Kirby Superstar, Bowser's Inside Story, and Melee as a trophy. The game also received a cute little plush set tie-in, having Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, and Wario. No Wanda plush, sadly, but Mario, Yoshi, and Peach all have these little buckets in their hands that you can place over their head. It's super cute. But why did the game never release stateside? It was planned, as evident in the September 93 issue of Nintendo Power. The game didn't sell well at all in Japan. It's thought that Nintendo America just couldn't market a game that requires the mouse, without losing money on including the mouse. Thankfully, the game isn't in Japanese at all, and it's totally playable without any sort of translation, so it's accessible in that way at least. In the end, I'm glad this game exists. It led to better things for the developers and better things for Wario. It's not a game I'd ever play again for fun, but for what it is, the game is solid. It's just too fucking tough. I don't know how to end this video. I have no larger points about fucking Mario and Wario. Are you kidding me? Next game is Wario Land. Fuck you. Thank y'all for watching. I got a Twitter and a second channel. Remember to like if you like the video, dislike if you fucking hate me, and subscribe to be notified when there's more. If you don't, then I'll drop a bucket on your head.